Cores management. Cores management is an essential part of running a repair shop, and MaxxTraxx is designed to manage your cores. In this cores management video, we will look at how new core charges and used cores are tracked, billed to customers if they keep their used cores, and managed when returned for credit or used in the rebuilding process. Let's look at a remanufactured part record first to see how these cores are tracked. Click the Parts search icon on the toolbar, and here on our parts list, you can see parts that have cores. See the Y in the core column? And the condition says rebuilt. Note here, even new parts can have core charges though. Let's take a look at this brake caliper part record. On this item page, we can see this part description has reman in the name, our first clue that we have a core charge. This is optional. I type reman in the description by habit, and most imported reman parts from online catalogs have reman in their description. Under this miscellaneous section, we have condition, rebuilt, and this condition prints on your repair orders, which is a legal requirement in some states. But note, selecting rebuilt here does not activate the cores feature for this part like it used to in our old DOS program. Let's click on the cores link on the left and see where we turn that feature on. This checkbox for track cores must be checked to activate the cores tracking feature. Here is the last core cost we paid when we stocked this brake caliper, the base cost of the core charge to let us know the highest core charge we've paid, average cost, and if the customer decides to keep their cores or the core is damaged and not returnable, this is the amount that is charged to the customer, which can be edited at the repair order level. I've found most shops just charge their core cost, but you can mark it up if you like. The used core quantities are different than the core charges we pay the vendor when we buy a reman part. You will notice new reman core charges are not tracked on this screen anywhere. MaxxTraxx just assumes if you have a quantity in stock of a reman part, there is an equal amount of new core charges. This section, however, tracks if a used core charge was charged to a customer if they took their core with them. We can click this button here, and we can see which customer on which RO we charged a core charge since they decided to keep their core. See the 140 here? We can click this quantity to return button here if we don't want to track these customers in this part record. But if they come back with that used core and ask for a refund of the core charge, this information is handy. I just leave the information in there. We also have a report that tells us which customers took their used cores. We'll look at that report and the customer core return feature in a little bit. Note the RO that this reman part and core charge is on does not have to be closed for this information to show up here. This is the quantity of used cores we have hanging around the shop that need to go back to the vendor for credit. If we discover we have a really damaged, unreturnable core on hand, we can click the Adjust Used Cores in Stock button to take that used core out of our inventory and move the dollar amount of that used core from our core inventory to our cost of goods sold in the inventory adjustment account. But if that core can be sent back to the vendor for credit, we need to get that done. We're sitting on $140 here. The best way to get visibility into the amount of used cores we have lying around the shop, which is just money in our pocket, is to run the cores report. Let's take a look. Click the reports icon on the toolbar, inventory for the category, and core valuation. This report lists all the new core charges I mentioned that we do not have itemized in the part record, just for your reference. And here we have the used cores. This is what we're looking for. This report says we have 22 used cores lying around out back somewhere worth almost $1,300 that we need to get back to our parts vendor for credit. This report is a profit center in itself, in my opinion. We can also see what is at our vendor that we're awaiting credit memos for. And I've found I've had to stay on these guys to make sure we do eventually get our credits issued. Now the way we get those at vendor numbers is by creating a parts order form for that core return. Let's look at that next. Click the Order Parts icon on the toolbar. Click the Create New Parts Order in the lower left and select the vendor these cores are going back to. Let's select factory motor parts. When I click Add Line Item and select Return Used Cores to Vendor for credit, MaxxTraxx will list the core charges I have paid to factory and the used cores I have to return to them. So I just click in the Return column and click OK, and now you can see we have a credit here. I can print this form for the parts driver to sign, which is covering my end of the pickup. So we'll just save this open parts order form, awaiting the credit memo from the vendor, which we can post to AP. Let's look at that part record for that transmission core and click on View Cores at Vendor. Now we show quantity 1 at the vendor and no used cores in stock. And here we can see the parts order form the core return is sitting on, date created, and quantity we are waiting for the credit on. So we've covered how to activate the core feature, seen the report for what new core charges we have in stock, used cores, and now how to get those used cores back for credit. Let's see about creating a part record from scratch with the core and how to enter a quantity of used cores on hand for you rebuilders. And I'll show you one of the biggest pitfalls to watch for when entering a new reman part record in MaxxTraxx. When we start the Add a Part wizard, remember the red asterisk denotes mandatory fields. We enter a part number and a description, the condition, which is a required field that defaults to new, and note this is an easy one to skip, so make sure you change it to rebuilt. Product code is fine at general inventory, and next. We enter the cost, and I'm just hitting tab here, and I select jobber pricing. And next. Here are the two important things. You must remember to activate the core feature. When you're in Restock Parts, there is a box to enter in a core charge from the vendor, even if this feature is not checked. But if it's not checked here, you won't be prompted to charge a customer for the core charge, and we'll look at that in a minute. And MaxxTraxx will not be automatically tracking these core charges and the resulting used cores for you. So here, we enter the core charge to us. And I always just charge the same to the customer if they keep the core. And here is where I see the number one biggest snafu. This here is a quantity of already used, dirty old greasy cores that you already have lying around the shop. So you really should never have to enter a quantity here unless you're creating a part record for the very first time and entering in the amount of these dirty old greasy cores that you're going to rebuild or you do have at your shop waiting to be sent back. So leave it blank. So when you enter a part into inventory through Restock Parts, you'll be prompted to enter the core charge, which is tracked in inventory in the background automatically. Or if you're a rebuilder, within that Restock Parts invoice, you'll also have an option to enter Purchase Used Cores, which will put that quantity here automatically. So those are the two biggest mistakes I see. One more note, if you import a part from an online catalog, this part record is created automatically for you if you have that option selected in your setups. And MaxxTraxx knows that it is first a rebuilt part, and it will activate the core feature here and enter that core charge for you. So let's just click Finish here. Now let's see how to manage cores in a repair order, and then we're done. There's a lot of information here about cores, so hang in there with me. When we select a part from the list with a core, we're prompted to choose Core Received, No Deposit Charged, and watch this description and price change here. Core Not Received, Deposit Charged, And you can change the actual amount charged to the customer for the core fee, or core not received, no deposit charged, and the amount appears 0. If we selected core not received and charged the customer, let's adjust the core fee we charged them. See the sales information totals down here? And the More button just shows profitability on the core charge. And if we did reduce the amount we charged the customer, it will show as a discount on the repair order on the core charge line. So let's pay this out. And we'll create another invoice right from the next appointment feature. And let's say that customer brought that core back for a refund of the core charge. I have a reason for service that is parts core refund, and a labor with the same name, as we still have to have a labor to hang a part or core refund on in MaxxTraxx. And then we right-click on that labor and select Refund Core Charge, not the Returns button down here. And here are all the used cores that this customer has taken with him, and the actual amount we charged him for taking that used core, regardless of the list core charge. Remember, we discounted this core charge to this guy? Click Select, and the amount that MaxxTraxx says we actually charged him, and OK. Save and pay, and here we can refund that customer cash out of the cash drawer, or select to refund a credit card and then process that credit card refund for him, or we can charge to accounts receivable, and from his customer record we can select Refund AR Credit and write him a company check. To be able to see which customers took their used cores with them, we can look in the Core Bank report. So let's click the Reports icon on the toolbar, select Inventory again for the category, and select Core Banking Report. We can look at all cores owed, or select a customer in the search, but we'll just click All. And we can see who we charged for taking their used cores with them, or for those used cores that were damaged and were not returnable. Note that these used core charges to customers will not show up on this core banking report until after the repair orders are closed and posted. So let's close and close. Now there's a lot to managing your cores, but MaxxTraxx makes it easy, and remember, properly managing those cores is money in your pocket. And this concludes the lesson on cores management.